Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Noxon. I'm Director of Noxon Giffen. This is Andrew Jenner. He's our project architect. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of Gariwerd, the Wurgarri and Duwul peoples who have cared for the land since time immemorial. We would like to acknowledge them as traditional custodians, and they have cared for the land since time immemorial. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and commit ourselves to a future with reconciliation and renewal at its heart. So the Grampians Peaks Trail Stage 2 is set in the ancient lands of Gariwerd, and this is a project about shelter in the landscape. Our solution is a series of structures inspired by the experience of and connection with the landscape. Simple, robust, raw and enduring, the hikers' shelters become part of the Gariwerd landscape. So the trail itself is 160 kilometres of trail with 11 sites, which were selected by Parks Victorian in collaboration with the traditional owners. Stage 2, which is our project, covers 10 sites plus Stony Creek Group Camp. 7 sites were only accessible by helicopter for construction. The site plans here were done by McGregor Coxall, that's their role, and the brief included for us, which was the shelter, group communal shelter, the amenities pod, and the camp huts. The tent pads themselves scattered around the sites were done by McGregor Coxall. The key project aims were really, we developed with the client, landscape as hero, a variety of experience across the journey, durability being such a public and remote site situation, and budget. So the sites themselves, this is a typical campsite. You can see the tent pads scattered around the bottom, around this communal shelter at the heart, usually of the site. McGregor Coxall, the landscape architects, also did infrastructure around the site, stone steps, furniture. We provided amenities at every site, and 2 of the sites had these, I guess, higher level experience camp huts. I think a key thing of the project for us is that there's this huge variety of landscape and climate across the 160 kilometre trail. And so here at the top left, you can see the famous sort of Gariwerd profile, the sandstone rock forms. And down the bottom, big mix of vegetation, dense wooded areas, charred landscapes and sandstone cliffs. So from the outset, we were aware that this shelter, which was one design, had to sit within a dense treed location, but also out on very exposed open plains. And so our design really is this rectangular form, and it basically took inspiration from the silhouette of the Gariwerd rock form, but also from the trees and the vegetation, in the sense that it has a lighter top, which allows dappled light and so forth, but then the more solid mid form, the trunk of the tree, the trunk's the solid form, and then it's just lightly anchored to the landscape. So here you can see the shelter and its reference to the Gariwerd sort of form, which appears along the trail. We ended up then, in response to the landscape, with 4 pallets of material. This is in answer to creating a variety across the trail: the charred timber pallet, the raw timber going from the left, the raw timber which silver greys like the vegetation, then a lighter filigree where we're in lighter landscape areas, and then the mild steel with relating to the oxidised sandstone. The shelter itself is this rectilinear form. On the left-hand side of the shelter is a communal sitting area for meal prep, meal eating and communal gathering, a large framed window framing the views. At the other end, a kitchen prep area, and then it's connected by this transverse link, which is entered through these decks, which brings people in from across the campsites. It's like a breezeway veranda sort of space, and water collection with the water tanks at the top, you can see there. So this is the shelter itself. On the right, the sort of main window capturing the main view. And on the left, the water tank at the sort of back, if you like, and the kitchen, little kitchen window, the decks reaching out to either side, connecting across the sites, and this lighter top. So the environmental sort of situation, as it were, the shelters hover above the ground for vegetation and animals moving beneath and through it. That allowed us to bring natural ventilation up through the floor, take it out through the top, sun protection, weather, water collection into tanks, solar charging for solar panels for battery charging for iPhones, and very high wind loads on a lot of very exposed sites. So 4 material pallets. Here's one of the cladding types, which is the lighter branches. So this is on the lighter vegetated sort of sites. the charred timber version, all done on the same sort of structural module. The raw timber version and the mild steel version. So internally, all set up on this unitized grid and panel system, black butt structural timber, high durability, black butt decking. This is a different plan type, which was an alternative to suit the site. So this is a more asymmetric layout, framing the big frame window, the doors, big sliding doors for weather protection, and then topped by this lighter filigree around the top, which just has that sort of connection with the tree canopies. And then the different cladding types produce a different internal architecture where we adjusted the bracing and the noggings and battens and so forth to suit the material. In this case, the sheet steel needed less support than, say, something like the light branches version, which needed more noggins and so forth. So that produces a different, and then that's all part of that story. Here's the raw timber. This is all part of the story where subtle variations in that materiality mean that each of the camps feels just a little bit different. Here's the charred one, different again. That's the kitchen and prep area at the back, and the little sort of kitchen, what we call the sort of kitchen window, which is a secondary view, and you can see the big sliding doors. Integrated coat hooks for all the hikers here. And we had to really integrate carefully with the landscape. This is sun shading and so forth, and very careful integration. So the amenities with the second sort of structure on the camps, they had to be raised. They're effectively drop toilets. These Sputnik pods, which are on the lower platform, they are delivered and removed by helicopter. A lot of logistics around that. And the toilets themselves are raised up on this platform in a contained area. It's a twin skin construction, so it's wrapped in this veil of expanded mesh with a more enclosed cement sheet enclosure inside. Also,
1 minute
water
remaining.
collection. The pods here with the platforms for helicopter. You can see the translucent, not translucent, the skin, the veil, and then the inner cement sheet pods. And then the last element is the camp huts, which were this raised experience, if you were. These have bedding for 4 people. It's flexible bedding. You can see, so this follows the same sort of form, and it opens up to the views, and it's more contained where the sleeping is down at the lower end. Quite tricky sites. These just hover over the landscape, and the cladding is the timber battens, and they're more densely battened down at the sleeping end. And then as the roof lifts and the view opens out, then the battens open up and there's more light as it opens out to the views. The bedding options are variable. The ladders move, and you can have a double bed or you can have 2 singles.